If they move to the point where they need to look at some per diems or something else, that's a different conversation. But predominantly, large-scale capital construction, we have that north property that we need to develop and design and develop. And then we have apparatus that's gonna be incredibly expensive coming up, whether that's updated ambulances or chassis, and then obviously that ladder truck, which we just used last week, is gonna need to be either retro or replaced at some point.
Okay.
And so, that is kind of the discussion we've had, is that fair?
Yeah, we have not determined what the funds will be
And,
for.
and we don't think we're at that point, but we wanna place them in a very specific fund so they can be tracked, and everybody involved, eyes completely wide open, you can see exactly every dollar in, and then know
We
every
have
exactly
actually
what
an
went out.
account open just for this, that account.
And that way the transparency is there, and so firefighters, everyone knows on your end where the money went, the city knows, council knows where the money went, and then when it is just agreed upon where it's gonna be spent on, everyone will also see that going in and out, so. Cause we anticipated this would be a relatively large number, we just don't know for sure. But obviously, there's, a lot of the expenses come in big chunks.
Yeah.
And so this would be a way to basically help, mitigate some of those costs moving forward. So, but it is intended for the fire department's benefit.
So, question, we had to set up a special account for this, so now, when this money gets dumped from one building solutions into this account, so then are we going to then transfer that money to the city?
That account should be under the city, and I know Nick has had this discussion, but it could sit as one of our other accounts, but it'll just be an account that it sits in, and then we designate it as being within the sinking fund in the budget documents.
We actually opened the account.
It's already done,
I know, but there's no way for you guys to get,
so I'm gonna have to take that money once it gets there, and I'm gonna have to transfer it
Or
to
you
the
also
city.
close the account and have the city set one up.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the cleanest way.
You need to call.
We'll figure that, I don't think it's a huge issue, we just wanna make sure,
It will be.
That's,
they'll need the account. They'll
They need
need
the account.
ultimately
Now,
when
that's
October
the
first
last
hits, if
piece
this is
of setup
approved,
that we
cause
did.
they gotta send it somewhere.
The only thing that's gonna come out of this is, so now you've got, the members are gonna look at it as, the control of the money isn't there anymore, it's gonna go to the city.
It should be.
And it'd be just like.
Just like all your money now is,
It's
it's at the
sinking
control of
fund.
the city. This is not, these funds are not the funds that you get from private donations that are deemed as something else, that are not government funds.
It'd be the
And we've
same
talked
way
about
the-
that before.
The same way the singing fund has always behaved, right?
Yep.
If you want
We
money,
allocate
that's
to
no
it.
different.
And by you not transferring, that whole process is, you know, not as transparent as it probably
Yeah,
should.
I know what you're saying, I'm just saying that, so when we go back tomorrow night and we talk about this, they're gonna look at this, that we don't have the control over it. I'm just throwing this out here because I know
But
it's somewhere in
it's
there.
still, the money is still, how it's spent is still governed. It really doesn't matter the pipeline of flow, it's just still who governs, who spends it, and what it's.
And just to
spent on.
clarify, the current sinking fund that the fire department has is under the city.
Yes.
So this would just be right, not
Next
literally,
door.
but figuratively, it'd be right next to that and treated the same way. We're not trying to hide the ball here, it's just we need to have it structured in a way,
I know.
no different than the current sinking fund. Do you have concerns with that, with doing it that way?
like John said, I think it's gonna be a perception,
Yeah,
because we're not in control of that account per se, it's the city's account.
If,
We'd be
if
in
they're,
control of this account.
I'm telling you by state law, I
Okay.
guarantee
And-
this.
And that's
If
fine.
they're deemed government funds, this body has to be the final authority for all of them. It has, there's no way to succeed to that authority. Now,
And
yeah,
that's
I
totally
don't,
fine.
I don't see how in anyone's right mind, but weirder things have happened. That if the fire department, who we give you guys the most complete authority when you do the budget with us and everything else, if the fire department comes and says, we wanna use the sinking fund, we wanna buy a new chassis for this ambulance. Do we have money for it? Yep, that's what we'd like to do, okay? I don't see us spending the sinking fund without your approval. That would be
But also vice versa.
odd.
You guys can't spend it without the city's approval.
Yes. Both parties would have to
Driving trucks
agree,
This year, sorry, John, boy.
I'm just saying.
but there's no way to eliminate the council because they're government funds and this body is tasked with that.
Yeah, it was, but the whole thing of it is, when we brought this about, It was a decision of the department. So the perception's gonna change here, I'm just telling y'all, that the perception's gonna change now because, okay, so now we set up an account, so now we're gonna cancel that account, and the city's gonna be in complete control of all of this.
But they're in charge
And the
of.
fire department has no control then at all.
But
But we don't know what the fire department needs until,
you
tell
tell
us.
us.
Right.
right?
You get, there's a lot of different blood there. And I'm just telling you that there's been generations, a lot of generations, and Matt can even chip in every once over the years that we were never gonna go pay. So we stepped up to the plate because we know financials is a burden, we know that. So now we're gonna change their perspective again because the city's gonna control it.
But legally, it has to be that way.
I'm
Right.
not arguing that.
And that may have been something that we should have addressed sooner on
Yes.
in this discussion,
You
and
should have
not
told them
knowing
upfront,
that.
this is the way it
Correct.
has to work.
Correct.
Right.
But it's earmarked for the fire department.
It is
Well,
earmarked.
it's
It
like,
is
it's
by
like the current.
Putting in the
sinking-
sinking fund, we
It's-
can't spend it on
yeah.
anything else.
Right.
Right.
I'm just telling you.
And you would have suffered from, always the concern with this, no matter what, has always been
Yeah.
that the budget would shrink,
Yes,
what we give you now, to offset what you've gained.
or that those funds that come in would be allocated to a different department in the city.
No.
Which if they go into a sinking fund, they can't
They
be.
can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, and-
They cannot,
and the
those funds,
clarification of
you
this, I think,
still
just
have to
needs be-
protect, as we've always discussed, at least from the mayor and the administrator's perspective, we still have to protect that the baseline that we're putting in now in the budget stays the same. We cover the same stuff, so we cover the gloves and the medical equipment and the maintenance and the utilities and all that stuff. That stuff stays where it is within the current tax base. This is just coming in separate, it sits in its specific fund, and is allocated there, and it is only spent for what the sinking fund was set up for.
We'll make it work. It's just that we're going to have to address this with the department because, you know, from the beginning, it's always gonna be the fire department. It's gonna be the fire department's, the money's gonna be the fire department's. The fire department's got some bad blood over the years with the city and prior mayors. And we don't wanna go into that. So, that blood's still there.
Yeah, there's a lot of new members, but there's some of the issues that are of old. I haven't seen it myself, maybe even before my time. but-
You'll do a good job explaining it.
Oh, yes, yes.
Thank you, John. It is
Yes,
that.
we will,
Thanks in advance.
we will.
So,
Is there a municipal law somewhere that states that your size of town, like the growth of it or whatever, by a certain point,
No.
no what?
I can guarantee I know where you're going.
Yeah.
That you
You
have to
have
have
to
some
go
sort of
paid.
professional or paid?
Yes.
No, because Carney's volunteer still, correct?
Well, York is.
I'm like, hold the phone here.
Yep.
I just didn't
Now,
know
it
if
may
there was
be-
something where if we do get to that potential
And there's a hybrid,
12,000 in
you see hybrid
population-
across the street, so, for instance, the fire, I think it's the fire department, specifically fire in Kearney is volunteer. But the EMS there may be paid, and you may see, we only have a paid and we have 2 guys on staff, they work 40 hours and the volunteers cover all the other hours. I mean, there is a hybrid across all levels. Some places just have a paid chief and the chief happens to also have to report to every EMS call during their regular working hours, and
Not trying
you
to
can
stir
hybrid,
pot or
there is
stir
no,
anything,
I don't know
just
that there's a requirement,
didn't
if there
know.
was, it would have to be in the huge.
So Liz
Yeah.
wants to go to a paid fire department.
I'm just saying that I didn't know,
Want me to write that
because
up?
if we get to a certain size,
We'll get you a copy of the tape
because volunteers are
for your
so
meeting, for your
hard,
meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful what you guys do, it's beyond amazing, there is nothing but high respect for everything that you guys do. I just didn't know if there was,
Yeah.
no,
oh, your town gets to 10,000, now you guys need to start
no,
considering
there's
this.
cities with millions of people that have split departments,
Mhm.
volunteer departments, some of them paid on call, paid part-time, paid, I mean, there's no standard.
If I can drive the
right?
ambulance, I'll start tomorrow.
I pushed the horn once when I was a kid.
I mean, I can flip the lights, I got it.
But seriously, like, to your point, I mean, that would be something down the road where we would want the fire department to specifically bring that to us, cause that's a cultural shift that we
Well-
really wanted to come from within, if that is in case, You know, and that a lot has to do with recruitment, a lot of that has to do with numbers and response
just-
times and all that.
Absolutely.
I mean, we just sit and listen for the Special Olympics are unable to find,
Right,
Mhm.
and are looking for a paid position.
yeah,
Not to say that one is greater than the other, but the public service of fire department and public service and safety is should be
Right.
paramount for the city's concern. We feel we can still offer this service through the organization that we do now as volunteers, but we think about it. What if we can't? What's gonna get us to the point that we need to go to Greg and the mayor and say, for the betterment of the department, betterment of the community, we gotta do something different. We're not there, but we think about it.
Well, I'll give everybody kind of a little.
It's just
spotlight here,
equipping that next generation too, that, like, letting them know that your exit strategy might be, but it's gonna take a whole year to get it on the budget and things like that here, so like, once again, I'm not stirring no pots, I'm
No,
not sprinkling
but-
anything, I'm just saying, we're growing,
Yeah.
so we need to think about it.
And just for everybody's information, we've had a little bit of spike. We're gonna potentially bring on 4 new members tomorrow. We're gonna have potential of bringing on 5 more members next month.
Outstanding,
That's awesome.
So we've had some spike that people are looking towards the community, okay? And they like, you know, we're starting to hear that they wanna support the community, that they wanna do some of this, and as long as we can keep driving the volunteerism, you know, we won't have another $1 million budget, or another $1 million entity that we're gonna have to be paying, because that's what you're gonna be paying, to have a full-time fire department. It'll be a bigger staff than what the PD's got.
as far as the one billing before us tonight, are there any other questions or comments or concerns, Alan?
My concern is, and I think I talked to both you guys about it, is public education, perception, understanding of the bills they will receive, and should they pay or should they not pay, and how are we gonna talk to people about this?
Well, I thought we had talked about just doing like a public education piece without getting into the detail.
It's a little tricky, because you don't necessarily want to encourage people to not pay a bill.
Right.
Because they'll get other
We
bills
said
from
the
us.
water bill.
We don't, you don't get, right? Let's make
Change
a,
bad habits.
yeah,
Like,
So-
you know, like a public service announcement kind of thing, going forward, when you
I mean,
call
people are
for,
gonna figure out
When
when
you
we,
call for an
when they didn't
ambulance.
get a, when they didn't fit, you know. This is Seward, I mean, a lot of people are, if there's a deductible, they're gonna pay the deductible, if there's a bill, then they're gonna probably pay the bill. For those that can't, or whatever reason don't, we're not going to, you know, pursue that, but I don't know that we necessarily want to do a PSA on how not to pay your bill, but.
Well, that's what I mean, just,
But, I mean, people are gonna know, and then, you know, we'll go from there, and,
but I do think we have to make them aware that this is coming. That, you
well,
know.
they're already getting billed. I mean, they're not getting billed by us, but, I mean, there are services out there, I mean, they're gonna, I mean, we've gotten calls from insurance companies before,
Yep.
that asking
All the
us,
time.
where do we send the bill, or how do we pay the bill, and we say there isn't a bill,
And attorneys.
and they think we're crazy. And so, I mean, they'll naturally get the bill for it, and then if they have questions, they can always call. I mean, we can put a contact number on there, call City Hall if you have a question about this, like you would any other bill, and we can explain it to you one-on-one. You just gotta be kinda careful about doing too broad of a message.
But I assume if you're a citizen now and you call an ambulance, you're not necessarily expecting to get a bill, because we've never billed
That's
for
correct.
it before.
That's correct.
Well, if you've had previous rides, then probably you would not expect it if you hadn't gone before, but I don't know how many people are
It's the
first
ones
time
from-
ambulance.
It's the one time, it's the
Right.
ones from out of town, like we go to the interstate.
Me.
and
Right?
Those are the ones
I
that
assume might be the
come
bill.
from big cities.
Well,
They're
that's how it
expecting
was
a bill.
when
They
we
know
had our
that
house
they get
fire,
charged.
like, I
Some
was
people turn down
expecting
service because
to
they
get
don't
a
want
bill
to
and
incur that
darn it.
charge. Even people in town that have never, the first time callers, will be like, I don't know if I wanna go, it's gonna cost me, and sometimes they'll say, no charge to us, but once you get to the hospital, that's a different story.
And then the other thing to bring in front of everybody right now, so everybody knows, one thing that we have brought up to the department, and it will drive, the process even more, is stipend. You know, to give all the members, a stipend, and we've talked about this. That's gonna be one of the big drivers too. And keeping everybody going. Because money is a little bit important, so it is, we are looking at giving some money back out of this, in the end.
I think,
Maybe Greg, since this is gonna be in the paper, obviously, you and a statement to make sure you get included in the paper, kind of explaining it, wrapping it up, and,
Yeah,
I mean, cause it's gonna, just,
Maybe.
this discussion's gonna
I'm
raise
getting
a lot
to get
of
my
questions. you know.
Thursday email from Emily on this one. I
don't
think
know,
ultimately,
just-
I agree, and I mean, me and Kelly talked about this as with One Billing Solutions, but just amongst ourselves. I don't know that it's the best that you just go out a straight PSA and say, don't pay your bills.
Agreed.
You don't do that.
I
It's just
think-
that there's gonna be a charge.
Inform people that there's gonna be a charge and that
Exactly.
there is no collection agency behind it. We're just trying to follow up and the purpose of why we're doing it and make sure they understand. We've added costs, we have big apparatus, we have other things we wanna cover. We wanna make sure that we can provide this service in the long-term future and
So
not
would
have
you-
to move to something else.
Would you say in this, whatever it is, that there would be no collection company involved?
No,
I don't think you need to say it.
you don't wanna go down that road.
I think you say going forward, starting with October 1, Seward Fire will be sending bills to your insurance or yourself, and leave it at that.
Cause your predominant ones that are gonna be of any issue with this are the uninsured. Other than that, anyone that's insured, if you're going to the hospital, you're gonna hit your deductible when they drop you off. Whether you were paying us or not, you're getting your deductible on the first drop off in the emergency room probably, and now you're off and running, and so our ambulance bill is not gonna be a concern to your insurance versus all the other care you're about to get.
The other part is, you're not gonna have to be able to do it just one paper, you're gonna have to do it multiple, maybe for a whole month of October, or say the whole month of September, every week, have that in there. Because that's the only way people are gonna get
Are we
notified.
gonna pay for this?
What is the
No.
charge that we will be charging? And I know it fluctuates depending on, but is there like a ballpark that you could put in your statement that says, we will now be charging in this ballpark between this and this?
Yes.
It varies on the services
Yeah, that's how
provided.
this works.
But it's started at, it's
Yeah.
based at this, and then it proceeds forward with additional charges
We'll
of
negotiate
X,
with
Y,
One
Z.
Billing Solutions what we want to charge. We haven't had that discussion yet. They've given us the range of what other people have, they've shown us what Medicare will pay minimally.
But I think as long as there's something that's placed in there that says at a minimum, an ambulance charge will be minimally billed at $250 and proceeding forward with whatever, you
I
know,
don't,
just
I
so
don't
that they.
think you can get into the specifics,
Can't get into numbers.
cause it's gonna change and it's
Based on
gonna-
mileage and everything, yeah.
I think we'll
Right, but to
probably
know
end
that
up
you went from
doing,
0 to at least there's now going to be a minimum
I think we will
of
let-
$250.
we will let people know that there will be a charge for the service as far as the specifics. We'll just let that play out more than likely, and if there are questions about the billing, we can sure handle those at City Hall and probably do it on a case-by-case basis. Is that fair to you guys?
I think so.
Okay.
We'll also have an open meeting and, people are, hopefully they don't fill us up, but.
It's communication though to the
Yeah.
residents.
And I agree, and you know, I know people, I was always reminded, we're very progressive as long as we don't change anything. So, you know, this change is gonna be a surprise to some people, but, I think moving forward is sort of the direction we need to go.
Vast majority of people that I've talked to one-on-one have said it's about time. So, if that's a general consensus, then you're gonna get that small, select, vocal group that will be objective to it.
And the other one is, again, we talked about this over a month ago almost. It was in the paper, correct, Emily? I saw the
It
article.
was.
It was out there. I don't know what feedback you got as council members. I received no contacts on this.
Mine were,
Zero. And
this should be happening, it should have started a long time ago.
The only ones I got feedback from is reserve members. And, you know, that was the only one. There's a lot of history in this town with the volunteer fire department, and we all know that. And that was where we got the feedback, was the old timers.
Do we just need a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and seconds. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, to register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkin, Beck, Camper, Coulterman, Singleton, Strice, and Hendricks, 7-0.
Thank you for all your help and work on this.
Yep,
Thank you.
thanks.
We appreciate you.
Item number 3 is in consideration of a voluntary annexation of Lot 1 Knox Addition. Tim, are you taking this one?
I think this is just our
Just
second
second
reading.
reading.
It's just a
Oh,
second reading of
never
3.
mind.
Do you have your-
Do you have any questions for Tim while I made him stand up?
I mean, he
That's
He's got a
right, he did
whole-
the
he needed to
exercise.
stretch.
Yeah.
Alright, thanks Tim. An ordinance declaring the annexation of certain contiguous and adjacent tracts of land, urban and suburban, in character, more specifically Lot 1, Knox addition to the city of Seward, to the corporate limits of the city of Seward, Nebraska, and extending the limits thereof accordingly, to describe the real estate to be annexed and its boundaries, to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form, to provide for a time when this ordinance shall take effect. We good, Kelly? Second reading? Alright. Moving on. Item number 4. Consideration of a hazard mitigation grant agreement with the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, for the Seward Interior Drainage and Pump Station Improvements Project, and authorization for mayor to sign all documents. Greg?
This was our pump station project. This went through an extensive review by NEMA and FEMA before we got to this point. But it is only for the portion of design and then a re-review of the, I'd be remiss if I could remember exactly what they, let's see, if I can find it in there. Essentially, an economic analysis after they fully design it. And so based on that economic analysis and the design, then they will green light whether they'll do the same match for the actual capital project, which is about $1 million. So we also need to upgrade the pump house as part of our levy accreditation process. So whether we do the grant or not is fine. It's gonna hinge on whether it meets their economic standards, which we've argued before in the work by GAO that it does, but they wanna see that again. And so we'll have final design. So we may have some really nice designs paid for, but they may not pay for the capital project. So that's kind of the 2-tier here, but that's what this is for. And this has been in our budget for a while now, it just has moved at a snail's pace.
Just need a motion?
Yep.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Is any further discussion? Seeing none. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camperth, Colterman, Singleton, Streisand, Hendricks, 7-0.
Okay, item 5. Consideration of a resolution approving the program agreement with the Nebraska Department of Transportation and DOT for the Bluff Road Bridge project, and authorization for mayor to sign all documents. Greg?
There you go. As I let you know before, we received 100% funding for the replacement of the Bluff Road Bridge, so this gets us started. I can answer any questions you got.
So moved.
When's it gonna be?
Gotta introduce the resolution.
Nice try.
I'll introduce the resolution.
All right, the resolution has been introduced, and it's designated as resolution number 2022-23. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
Second.
The motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camperth, Colterman, Singleton, Streisand, Hendricks, 7-0.
All right, item 6, update on the fiscal year 2022-2023 City of Seward budget. Greg?
We're receiving some of our last main items so that we can give you a full breakdown of the budget. That includes our insurance estimates. We still do not have the final property tax number. That won't come till August 20th, but we don't plan to wait that long to roll out the budget to you. We met last week with the mayor for 5 hours reviewing the proposed budget, and he gave us a list of tasks to amend it from what he would like to offer. Nick is almost complete with that, and so we would like to roll out the budget to you. We do also need to check in with the Personnel, Finance, and Audit Committee after we met with the mayor now, because he gave us our standing order of what to show them first, because it's technically his budget, and then we'll get their recommendations, incorporate those, and then roll out the budget. So that should happen in short order, like within a week this time. And so we'll need to set that special meeting. Again, just giving you an update on how much detail's in this at the moment. It took us 5 hours to show it to the mayor. So,
Do you have any idea on ballpark dates?
I'll check with Nick tomorrow because I have to have Nick there. So he's gonna present this to you. So Personnel, Finance, and Audit is probably an hour meeting at most. The COLA recommendation that we always talk about, that needs to be looked at, and comparability. Those are the two big ones we need recommendations on from Personnel, Finance, and Audit. And then we'll be ready to go.
So is your intent to do this in a special meeting, do this in a,
We would hope, because I already had the agenda from Derek for your next meeting, and your next meeting is full.
so would
So it'll
this
probably
be
be
before the next meeting or after the next meeting?
whenever we can get the mass majority of you there. We would like all of you there. so. Otherwise, you're gonna have a really long next meeting, and you're just gonna have to sit through it,
I
cause
don't
you
know,
have
so-
about a 4 hour, 3 to 4 hours potentially.
So you're thinking on attaching this to a city council meeting?
Well, I'm trying to read the vibe in the room.
I prefer not.
I would prefer not to.
I
Yeah.
just, there's a lot of, the calendar's tight, so I'm just trying to, if we could have a date, as soon as we could have a date, the better, because I have
Let's do a Friday, then we can all take off a work and dedicate a whole Friday.
No, we can't all take off the work.
Yes,
It don't work that way,
yes.
especially when someone's
The city will
traveling.
call your
How
boss,
long
it'll be
do you
fine.
What?
How long are you thinking for the?
When does it have to
For
happen?
the meeting,
Yeah.
I'm gonna set aside at least 3 hours
Does it
plus.
have to happen before Labor Day?
So 5.
Yes.
Years ago, we used to do it on a Saturday.
I will do it, it literally is me and Nick, and barring his calendar timeline, I will do it any day, I'll do it during the day, I'll do it at night, I'll do it on, you name it, and I'll be there, and we'll get it done. So,
So when is our next meeting? It's the.
August 16th?
Okay, okay.
Do you want me to survey monkey? Just
Yes,
send it out?
Yeah.
Just fill it in, or doodle poll,
Probably easier to do.
yeah, doodle
Could
poll.
do that. I could do
so
that.
we're thinking finance this week?
For the personal finance, this week if you can,
Okay,
I need about an hour,
yeah.
so. And Matt, reminder, I don't know if you remember, but you're on that too.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Sorry.
I was trying to do this.
Climate
Yeah,
guard.
no, I remember.
I think generally, like, I love that we're gonna do a separate meeting and totally focus on the budget. It's just a matter of getting all the schedules aligned.
The other reason we like the separate meeting, and this has always been the way in the past, even before my time, is the separate meeting gives us an opportunity to make changes to the budget based on your feedback. You know, we've done a pretty good job of not having substantial amount of feedback, but there's big stuff in there, and nothing got cheaper this last year, amazingly. So, I don't know how that happened, but, and so, yeah. We wanna walk you through it all, and, again, the hard part is when you don't have all these final numbers. We just got health insurance this week, so that just rolled in, but we won't have final liability insurance, which is one of our substantial ones. It's like $500,000 plus. We won't have that for another 28 days, so we're gonna be guessing on stuff.
So priority, 11 o'clock email to all of us, figuring out what date works.
You're gonna get a doodle poll from Derek and me tomorrow, and we're gonna just put dates in there, and if I
That
see.
would just be on the council meeting, not the finance.
Yes, finance, I'll work with you guys individually, we'll get together, if we gotta do a lunch, I mean, it's a committee meeting, we'll do a lunch hour or something, or whatever we need to, right, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever we gotta get together on.
Anything else on that?
That's it for that.
Greg,
7.
update on wellness.
Bittersweet, right?
I almost have the final RFQ completed, and so I got some other documents and been reviewing those from other communities, just making sure I got all the detail in there, because we've not done other than the wastewater treatment plant RFQ, which is a completely different thing, more technical in regards to process. And so we'll finalize that, and get that rolled out. We did incorporate some elements and reallocate the budget. That was like a whole half a day for Nick, where I was like, oh, by the way, you also need to figure out my mess of what I did with, because all the numbers were wrong, the account numbers, they were just made up. And now we had to account numbers for all the wellness center accounts and all that stuff and get those aligned. We met with the auditors and talked about how that cash flow will go and how they'll want to see that, because it is tied to a sales tax and a very specific thing. So we've had to make a specific budget sheet just for that essentially capital project. It has its own budget, and that's what they wanted to see. We saw that from other communities, so it will very much have its own budget within the budget sheet. So we'll continue to move forward with that. Grants are put on hold at this time for applications until final design is complete, is most likely the approach they wanted to take, because we think the response back we're gonna get is the same as QIT now. So we wanna see what the final design number is, and if we're off on numbers, then we can ask them for more money, because we are now shorter, where before they were like, hey, look, you hit your mark almost, you're fine. So,
When should we see plans?
you probably won't see plans till spring for final design, because you'll RFQ it, and that'll take about 45 days, 70 days. to finalize and select them, and then they're off and running. So, but they have a basis because we'll be able to give them square footage and exactly what needs to be in there predominantly. So there's not a whole lot they'll have to do, but again, they do have to do design. So we say we want a pool this size, we want gym space, we want, and all those things have essentially been hashed out. It's really about fine tuning the plumbing and the electrical and how they're gonna engineer the roofing system, stuff like that, so.
Great.
Thank you.
With that, next we have, city administrator's report.
I have a litany of stuff. There's a lot of things going on. Update on I don't know if you were aware that the house fire that we had near Third and Moffett was a significant fire. And so that is still under investigation by the fire marshal, but the building itself has been turned over to the land owner. And so the process of what to do with that can begin. Me and Tim said we don't want that to become a nuisance or sit there in perpetuity. And so we're gonna push to make sure something happens with that, because that's a substantial building to be just sitting there like that in that state. So that's going on. Continue to have an issue with officer recruitment. We had a certified candidate that was our finalized candidate that for personal reasons, nothing to do with the city of Seward or our, anything else specific, declined the position right at the end before the final interview. But it was a personal matter back there out of state. And so we are now starting over for the third time to fill the last, and it is hard. Our last round of applications, we had one person, and it was this candidate. So, what we can do to help alleviate that issue, whether that's fiscal or otherwise, is important, and we need to be very active in that process of recruitment, because they have to cover all that extra time to make sure the city has coverage. And we've been, between military leave and all the other stuff that's been going on over the last year in the open positions, we've just been going at it, trying to make sure we got coverage. And so, just bringing that up, that continues to be a struggle, and that is not specific to us, that is statewide, nationwide. But it is a struggle, so, and we pride ourselves on the safety of the city of Seward, so, bringing that up. Hillcrest and Pinewood have construction projects that have been going on up there. Pinewood will fully open across the board tomorrow morning, and Hillcrest will open on Thursday. That was the project to install the water main connections to the new music building, and so that will open on Thursday, but that's important. You got an email about signage today, and without going into a lot of detail, I did minimal amount, and I can brief Kelly on this, and he'll give you the final one. But as it relates to things that are deemed offensive or obscene, the Supreme Court is basically, the U.S. Supreme Court has nailed this case, and so there is little you'll be able to do in regards to the email you got today. But Kelly can follow up on that one and give you the full breakdown of that. But I did a quick search just to follow up. So if you're interested in that, look up Cohen versus California, and that will about give you everything you need to know. Other than that, I can answer any questions. Just with budget, we did a check-in with all of the department heads and our staff, and that ate up a lot of days. And then just to give you forewarning, again, I may be in and out over the next couple weeks or so because of a family health issue. So that's all I got.
Any questions for Greg?
Move to accept his report?
Second.
Motion and second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wolken, Beck, Camper, Colterman, Singleton, Strice, and Hendricks, 7-0.
Any future requests for council agenda items or administrative action? Seeing none?
No, I don't think so. I think you're clear.
Okay.
If not, I'll email you.
I know you will. Any announcement of upcoming events? Welcome. What do you have for us?
Just a few things. Jacob Jennings with the Seward County Chamber. First is the fair, Seward County Fair this weekend, August 4th through the 7th. We are firmly in back to school season now. So we'll be celebrating some of our annual back to school events, Concordia on August 4th, and then in Seward Public Schools on August 15th. So welcome back their faculty and their staff. Thank you to all the local businesses for supporting our new teacher welcome bags. Monday, August 15th, our organization, SCCDP, has our annual, quarterly meeting. And thank you to Councilmember Beck for your support there. We'll be doing a quarterly meeting, but also we're finishing up our 3-year strategic plan. So we're gonna have a professional facilitator there to work with our board and staff to conduct our next strategic plan. This is happening with significant efforts to host focus group sessions and gather survey data to learn more about the needs of public and private sector partners across Seward County. So stay tuned for more details there. And then lastly, we have a weekend in late September, the 24th and 25th. That Saturday is the first annual Seward County Arts Gathering. We'll be celebrating arts and culture across the community at various venues and encouraging people to shop locally. And then on Sunday, September 25th, we have our first annual Farm to Table tasting event. That also celebrates arts and culture with a special emphasis on highlighting some of our local chefs and local drinks. Both events are part of our efforts to fulfill our commitment to celebrate arts and culture as part of the Seward County Vision 2035. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have a strategy session.
I move that the city council go into closed session with the mayor, city administrator, city attorney, and the city clerk for the protection of the public interest and to discuss real estate interests and to provide the city attorney with negotiating guidance for a period not to exceed 30 minutes.
I need 1 hour now.
Oh, not to exceed 1 hour. Okay.
We have a motion, is there a second? Second. Please register your votes. Please play the vote.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camper, Colterman, Singleton, Strice, and Hendricks, 7-0.
The council has voted to go into closed session for protection of the public interest, to discuss real estate interests and to provide the city attorney with negotiating guidance. We are in closed session. Thank you, everyone.